That was number 4. Number 5, we go to Max, and then we get Max, and Max was probably one of my favorite dogs I ever had. I got him for my birthday, and I remember having this conversation with my dad on the phone because they hadn't gotten the dog until pretty much immediately before my birthday, and so he called and asked me, he's like, "What kind of dog do you want?" Which, like, what the hell do you like say as a young kid? Like, I didn't know. I was gonna be like Cocker Spaniel or like some shit like that. I was like, I want a dog that is black and brown and white. And that was it. And he was like, all right. And so then he came home a few minutes later and he got me a sheepdog. And it was black and brown and white, just like I wanted. And I named it Max. And he just would circle everything. He would circle everything because he was a sheepdog. Like, if you would just stand there completely still and he'd sprint around you like his life depended on it. If you were sitting watching TV on the couch, he would sprint around the couch like his life depended on it. And eventually, Max was having too good of a time with one of our family friends under a table in the kitchen, and he bit this kid's nipple really hard and drew blood. My mom was like, oh shit, we got to send Max off to the farm. And so we sent Max off to the farm, which I think was a vast, like, overreaction, because I'm pretty sure this kid was just pestering him, and Max was like, the hell, man, I'll bite your nip if you don't shut up. And then he kept pissing him off, and so he bit his nip, a man of his word, so to speak. So he went down to the farm, and my grandpa had a big old Silverado truck, probably the same one that Felicia was named in earlier in my life, and this dog still, it would circle a moving truck, and it did it all the time. It got to the point where my grandpa, when driving up his gravel road, he'd be going, 10, 15 miles an hour, and this dog would be circling him the whole time, just keeping pace around this truck, almost like a force field of some kind, like a weak dog force field that's not effective in the least and can be taken down if he trips in front of the car, which, as you probably saw coming, the dog eventually tripped in front of the car, got ran over, killed. Very unfortunate that, but I mean, at the same time, you can't really blame him. You're playing with fire like that, a dog circling your moving car, and you can't get him to stop. Like, it's gonna happen. Like, Jesus Christ, Max, what are you thinking? And so Max got run over that way, and that was unfortunate because he's my favorite pet up to this point, because Beans would have probably been pretty badass, but I was too young to really have a connection with Beans. That was number 5. Moving on to number 6. I had a praying mantis named Steve, and Steve the praying mantis, I caught him, I guess, when I was in probably 6th grade or so, just because I thought they were cool. I probably saw like a Discovery Channel special on them, and so I went out, caught one, brought it back in, put it in a cage, and he had a very sad death because for a while I couldn't drive, obviously, and my dad was like, if you want to keep this thing, go for it, but I'm not driving you out to buy crickets or anything. So I'm like, fine. So me and my younger brother would go out and we'd try and find crickets to feed this goddamn Steve praying mantis, and for the first week or so we caught them pretty diligently. We're feeding him, watching him eat, and then the novelty of a praying mantis became really, really boring, and essentially I just became so lazy that I didn't get food for this thing and just let it starve to death in this cage. And every day I'd be like, nah, he doesn't need a cricket today. He had one like 5 days ago, and I think those things are like snakes. I can just keep going. And I'm like, oh no, it's been like 2 weeks, but he's holding together fine. He's probably just burning some fat. And then eventually he died. And if he weren't an insect, that would have been a terrible, awful thing to do, but it's not like those things feel pain anyway. So that was Steve, the praying mantis, which didn't really put any thought into that. Could have named him Ninja or Samurai or any number of cool things, like Raphael, the possibilities were endless, but, Steve it was, whatever. And that was number 6. Number 7 was Zoe. And I've mentioned Zoe before because Zoe was a cold-hearted hellcat bitch, just awful, terrible creature, because we went and we got her, and what was funny is we didn't consult my dad about this at all, just me, my mom, and my brother went to this lady's house who had a bunch of goddamn cats everywhere, which is weirder than I realized at the time, and I went over, I picked one up, and we were like, all right, let's take this one. So we took it back to the house, and as soon as we get there, we're playing with this cat, like, oh, we're going to name it Zoe, and we're having a good time with it. We put it down, first steps in the house, sprints away, down the basement, and then we had a huge pile of furniture in the unfinished area, and this thing just hid in there. And it must have been hiding in there for 10 hours, just chilling behind there. And we were like, Zoe, Zoe. Well, I don't know why we were yelling its name, because cats do not respond to anything because they are terrible, terrible creatures that want nothing more than to claw your eyes out and eat your soul and then poop it out and then let a dog eat that shit. So that's not what it wants. And so it hid there. We finally got it out. We were so worried by putting a can of tuna out and opening it and letting Zoe come out and eat it. And then we carried her upstairs and we're like, we're not going to let that happen again. And then probably 15 minutes later, we put her down on the couch. We neglect to look at at her for, you know, the standard 4 seconds, and then we look over again and she's gone, and we spend the next hour trying to find this goddamn cat around the house, and it ends up being behind the freezer, strangely enough, and it had like a hollowed out back kind of freezer, so it was just hiding, chilling back there, so that was really shitty. So Zoe sucked ass toward the end of her life. She kept coming up behind us on the stairs and hissing at us. All I'd have to do is be walking down to go to school in, like, I guess, 8th grade, and this thing would just be like, and just slap and claw and itch and just tear at the back of your shins and your legs and just, well, there's not really a back of your shin, but you get my picture. And it was very, very unfortunate because this cat rather, was just horrible. And eventually we didn't put it to sleep. We just gave it away. We were like, you know, fuck you, Zoe. You suck, asshole. We're not keeping you around anymore, so you can go find your own way. And I hope it's dead. I hope it's dead right now. That cat was so terrible. So Zoe, if you're listening to this, I hate you, and you are not forgiven for scratching my ankle really bad that one time, and then it was a really bad deep cut, and so every time I would walk or like skate, because I was playing hockey at the time, it would tear it open again, tear it open again, tear it open again, and I'd get sweating it, and it was really just exacerbating the stress of having an annoying bitch cat that wouldn't go away. I prayed every day that you would run away, Zoe, every day. Just want you to know, just in case you're listening, you know, just putting that out there. So, that was number 7. Moving on to number 8. Wasn't technically my pet, but it was kind of my pet. Essentially, my younger brother's friend was going out of town, and he had a pet bird. And he was going out of town, and he was like, can you take care of my bird for the 3 days that we're gone? We're like, all right, whatever, we can take care of a bird for 3 days. What we didn't anticipate is that this huge, yellow, squawking son of a bitch would be loud at every juncture and never be quiet, never, ever, ever. And to add to this whole story, you should know that this was like a really expensive bird, like a $500 bird, like really, really expensive. I mean, I'm no like avian dealer like in the black market or some shit, so I don't really know the baseline for expensive animals, but it was pretty expensive. And so essentially, we took the bird, and it was squawking for like the first day. We put it in a cage in a room by itself, threw a sheet over it, and for like the first 30 minutes of that night, it was shrieking, and you could hear its wings beating and flapping, and then pretty suddenly it just stopped, and it kind of was just like, bam, no more noise, and everyone in the house was like, oh, thank goodness, we can go to bed. Next morning, my mom wakes up, and I wake up, and Nathan wakes up, and we all get up, go over into the next room to check on Sunshine, and we pull the sheet off, and lo and behold, Sunshine had gotten her little head lodged into between some of the wires on our cage and hung itself, and so it was just a limp, dead bird body hanging there. And then Nathan had to call his friend and explain how this bird had apparently committed suicide in the middle of the night after spending 1 day with us. Like, apparently we were that bad of a bird family, it just couldn't handle it anymore. So this bird hanged itself, and so I guess in addition to all the deaths, that's pretty much the worst one, because that one, maybe it had a really sad existence back at my brother's friend's house, and they just really didn't like it or something, but this seemed like an intentional suicide. It seemed like life is enough, I'm going to end it. So that was pretty ridiculous to see, but since it wasn't my bird, it was kind of hilarious at the same time, which sounds pretty sadistic, and it is pretty sadistic, but, you know, sue me. It's a goddamn bird. I don't care. So that pretty much summarizes all of my pets that I've had throughout my life. I've probably had a couple more because it's basically been a genocide. Like, they just die like nobody's business. And right now I have a Black Lab Border Collie mix named Boz, and I have my little Bichon Frise Tobo. One lives at my mom's house, one lives at my dad's house, so they're not together all the time, but they get along well, and so it's only a matter of time until some horrific event befalls both of them. But hopefully, fingers crossed, that won't happen too soon. But hope you guys enjoyed this. Really no reason to tell this story other than the fact that I realized I'd never talked about any of my pets, and then once I started thinking about it today at work during some downtime, I'm like, holy shit, I'm pretty much a curse to pets because they die all around me. They're just dropping like flies, dropping like cats and dogs. Damn it. Should have just left it at flies. Anyway, that's all I gotta say. Hope you guys enjoyed. And I love you.
Alpha secure. Enemy sun.